so much for coming. Because we're recording, that's why we're using a microphone. I know you can hear us without it, but this just helps with the sound. My name is Linda Reedy. I'm the CCS Academic Dean. This is my 18th year here at CCS. So I've seen a lot of come and go over the years, and just very excited about this program. So let me open us in prayer and we'll get started. Father, thank you so much for this opportunity for us to come together and talk about academics, Lord, as we know that you desire for us to be excellent in all things, Lord. And I pray that this will be a beneficial time, a time of getting information that will be helpful both to parents, students, and teachers. Lord, we love you and look forward to what you're going to do in and through us today. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so I started looking at map growth several years ago and started talking to a lot of other Christian schools that use it. And it's always had such a positive reaction. And it finally, everything kind of lined up to where we were able to get it this year. And we are so happy to have this because there's so much great information that can be gleaned from these results. And Ms. Calderon, she's new to CCS this year, but she is not new to map growth. She has used it a long time. She's a pro at it, and you're going to be really excited about the things that she's going to share with you with map growth. So I'm going to have to slip out. We are in our last rehearsal for Willy Wonka, and I'm supposed to be doing the tech. So enjoy your time, and I will email this out to all parents along with a copy of the slideshow. And if you have any questions, Ms. Calderon can help you.
I teach 5th grade here. I teach ELA. As you can see from the color of my hair, I might have been in education a day or two. I started in Christian education 21 years ago. And I've been using map testing for the last, I don't really know how many years. I can tell you the last 4 for sure. It has driven my instruction and made me a way better teacher. I taught a remedial class at my last school, and I would print out the report, and the students would get the report, and then they would circle what they wanted to work on in their areas that they needed remediation in. And one of my students, I will brag on him, this was not an anomaly. This was just a kiddo who was particularly proud of his growth. He came in, he was over 2.5 years behind, and he was one of the #1 running backs at 12 years old. And he knew that where he was not a D1 candidate. And he said, I want to be a D1 candidate. He went into high school this past fall at grade level, at reading level. So in 2 years, we got him back up, and he was testing at the 10th grade reading level. So we got him remediated and advanced, and his mom emailed me about a week and a half ago and said, he's got straight A's. So we know that all that is to God be the glory, that people who were way smarter than me adopted that before I got there. And I have to tell you, I am a nerd. And when Ms. Stute said, oh, we're doing map testing, I was like, so excited. So I am really pro map testing. Please, if you have questions, feel free to stop me. Just because I've written the presentation doesn't mean that if you have a question that we can't go deeper, we can't go out of order. So what we will cover tonight, we will go over the explanation of the measurement of academic progress, and that's where the map testing word comes from. And this did not look like this on our computer this afternoon, so we'll have to figure out what went wrong when we downloaded it. So reviewing the parent report, and then how to use this report to help your child. If your child is in the 67th percentile and you want to get them further along, we can do that. If they need remediation, we can do that. This takes your child where they are, and we can give you tips, tricks, and strategies to grow them to where it is for your child. This isn't a one-size-fits-all. This is a diagnostic that helps your child. That's what I like about it. Okay, why did we choose map testing? Well, I will tell you it's because Ms. Stute is brilliant, and That would be my response. But she actually used data. This is tested on over 10 million students, so the testing data is valid. It's not a test that's been standardized or on, even a million people. It's 10 million, 50 states, 141 countries. I think if you are looking at data, you want data that's got that deep reserve. Why do we have students take MAP testing? MAP testing does a couple of things. First thing it does is it provides us as teachers the information about the instruction level of the student. So if we're looking at a student, and this young gentleman, let's make up a name, call him Trey. He was the third of his siblings that I had, so we'll call him Trey. Trey came to me, and it gave me where he learned best. So I knew if he was reading a history book, a science book, a math book, any kind of textbook, that his functional reading level was way below. He came in to me as a 7th grader. He was testing early 5th, late 4th. So we had to get him caught back up. That impacts all of his instructional, because now he can't read, he can't do the stuff he needs to do in class. It also provides a roadmap for the student. So we have a student here in the room. If maybe she has a goal of a school, I know this could be sacrilege, other than UT, she could say, I can see what their requirements are, and I can strive to hit that. And we do need roadmaps earlier and earlier and earlier these days. So that's just a sad but true reality. The test helps us see not only where your child is currently on their academic journey, but it provides data to help us improve. When we look at reading, we break it down into the word origins, semantics, vocabulary acquisition, comprehension of literary text, and comprehension of nonfiction text. In my opinion, I look at comprehension of nonfiction because that's all their textbooks. If they've got really high in literary text and they can read fiction really well, that's fantastic. But we need them to be able to really dive into that nonfiction, and sometimes if we target that area, that's where we can get our greatest growth. Math. Math is number and number sense, computation and estimation, and then measurement and geometry. So that's what the math test looks at. We're going to break down the report. Did anybody bring their report? Okay, so they can get it on their phones. Is that it came through on their phone? Did it get, because it got emails to some of them, then some of them it got handed out to. So I know different grades got it differently. So, well, the first thing you're going to go is it's called a growth report, and it doesn't show growth. And you're like, well, why are we calling it a growth report? This was our baseline. This was the first year we offered it, so there won't be growth on this test. But wait, it's coming. It will come. It will come the next time we take the test, and we are taking it again in January. So now this is a sample family report, and when you saw yours, did it look like that? Does that look familiar? We're going to break down what that report means and kind of how to take a look at it. Just because I'm not sure how that's going to look up here, I'm going to break it down up here. Does this have a laser pointer on it? It doesn't. Okay. In the upper left, it has some questions. We're going to go over that in just a second, but I want to take a look at the two graphs. If you take a look, it says mathematics, and this student, if you can see, mathematics is the top one, and if you can see the arrow pointing down, it's in that blue box. That means that they are in the top category. But we can look at it and dissect it further, and it will tell you what their mathematics score is, and then where they are on the percentile. Are they at the 96th percentile? That means 4% of the people in the United States, over the 10 million people, have tested better than them. I think if you got a 96th percentile on 10 million people, you can take comfort that that test has validity. Then you go, okay, they've got it going on. The reading, if you take a look at that, that student's numbers are dead in the center. They're at the 50th percentile. So we've got a student who does really well in math. We may have some more areas of opportunity for growth in that language arts area, because that language arts area, remember, is going to impact their history, their Bible, their science, not just their ELA. So then if we come up to, we are not currently doing science, and the one on the right is the science. If you see that dotted line on your report, that is the 50th percentile. And so if that just gives you that quick visual, is my kid above or below? Now, if your child falls in a range that you are uncomfortable with, we were all given different children. I have one kiddo who hates to read, to the point where when he was in 3rd grade, I was like, look, I'm gonna turn on, I know ESPN is your favorite, I'm gonna turn on the scroll bar, closed caption, you gotta read it for 20 minutes, and then you have to tell me what you read. So that's how I got him to read, trust me, he wouldn't read any other way. To this day, we tease him that he reads the internet. When I did that, his scores jumped like crazy, because now he was exposed to all sorts of vocabulary. So I took my background in education, coupled it with how I knew I could get him to read, and we got him from the 32nd percentile to like the 50th in the first year, and by the time he graduated from high school, he was popping at about the 85th to 90th. So, but you can take some direct remediation, intervene, and get where you want to go. Okay, we're going to take a look at the box on the top, because this is the question that I get a lot, is what do achievement and growth mean? Growth is growth. I think you can figure that out, not being disrespectful, but growth is, are they growing? Did they grow from last test to this test? Well, we'll know more in January. So we can have these back again in January. You can bring the report. I could sit down, happy to chat with you. This subject makes me very happy. To the point where I volunteered to do this because I like it so much. I was like, I'll do it. She was like, rock on with your bad self, you go ahead. So achievement. This is how well has your child learned the skills in the subject compared to the kids nationwide. I'm going to tell you it's not nationwide, it's worldwide. So again, that goes back to those 10 million kiddos that it has been tested on, and now we can take that data and go, where do they hit? And then an RIT score. An RIT score is the overall score, and it's based on that unit. And you're going, well, that's really lovely. I don't know what that unit is. You know, you're like, I know what Fahrenheit is, I know what Celsius is, but what's a Roche unit? It's a RIT score is the level of achievement in a particular subject, and what it does is it says if the student is about 50% likely to correctly answer an item at that level. Does that make sense? That's one of those, like you're going, okay, so they're given a question, there's a 50% likelihood they'll get it correct. Okay, so parents will look at that score and they'll go, my kid scored a 209. Oh, isn't that fantastic? And then sometimes, as the teacher, if I know that maybe that is one data point and we need to look at other data points at how their functionality is in the classroom. Maybe their functionality in the classroom pulls that down a little because of the 1,000 other things that happen in the classroom. So it's a 50% likelihood. Does that make sense? It's one of the things that once you get into it and you start knowing how to use that and how to use that prediction, it makes sense. But when you're first time seeing it, sometimes it can get a little confusing. Questions so far? Yes, sir.
Why are you not testing for science?
Why are we not testing for science? I'm going to tell you the global reason, because most schools stopped. Now, we can ask Ms. Stute why they're not choosing to, why they choose to not on the baseline.
Pass in the buck.
Yep. Yeah, we chose to focus first on the reading and math, and then know that if we liked, I mean, this is the first time we've ever used maps, so it costs a lot. And so if we fall in love with it, if we love it, if we see that it's working, then we will add to it.
Okay, so that's
So-
the plan, is to add to it.
If we, yeah, yep.
It also depends on your goal. If your goal, you have to identify your goals on why you're taking this test. And if your goal is to help global achievement, not just find out where they're at. If it's for global achievement, that reading score is going to be your best predictor of how well they're going to do in science. Because all of the subjects hinge on reading. Science, you have to make sure your curriculum aligns with the standards for the global standards. So sometimes you'll delay putting that science test out there. You'll get this in place, then you'll look at that, then you'll align your science standards, and then you'll do the science test. Does that make sense?
Backwards, yeah, but I get what you're saying.
What would you want it to show you?
Their basic understanding of accepted science in the science community. And I think that's where science starts, is you start with the hypotheses and you end up with the results, versus you start with the results and then extrapolate backwards, which is what.
I hear you, and we can talk about it. I've done it both ways. I was an administrator when we opted in for science. I was an administrator when we opted out of science for a variety of reasons. So, I mean, we can touch more on that, but.
I certainly get the cost basis, like I understand it's probably pretty expensive.
It's a good debate to have, I will tell you, and I can land on either side. I can be Switzerland, and I go, oh, I see that one, I can see that one, so. Yes, ma'am.
Do you test, so you don't test standards? So like, for example, because you're gonna repeat it again.
Yes, ma'am.
So in January, they're gonna receive the same type of test so that you can see growth? Or is it what they've already learned?
We'll talk about that.
Okay.
We're gonna table that one, we're gonna put
Okay.
it in the parking lot, and we'll get to it. And then
Okay.
you'll see exactly, because I've addressed that.
Okay.
Okay, if we take a look at the math chart, it said that it was a 216. If I tell you a Lexile score, does a Lexile score mean anything to anybody in the room? Okay, Lexile score, you'll know it on AR, and it will have a score that's going to be over here on the left. The 216 is not the Lexile score, but they're going to show it over here. There's a Lexile score that's a quartile score, and it is equivalent to a reading score, but it gives you another piece of data for math. So if math is your jam and you really want to dig down in math, email me and I can send you charts and fun stuff, and you can dig as deep. But the 216, if you can see, we have the midline, the dotted line is the national average, that's the 50th percentile, and this child is in the 67th percentile. So we go, oh, 67th percentile, that's pretty doggone good, right? But maybe this parent's like, not as good as I want it to be. There are ways we can dig down, and maybe you are a family that are committed to math, and you have said, I really want to make sure my child has strong math skills. I have a math tutor. We can cooperate with that tutor and say, these are the math skills that they are ready to develop. It gives us, I liken it to an MRI. I can go to the doctor and they can go, you got something going on. You got a little upset stomach and you got a little stuff going on? Bummer. Take 2 aspirin, call me in the morning, right? Or they can send me through an MRI and they can get a diagnostic. This is equivalent to like an MRI. It's a more advanced. It tells you way more in-depth information. If we take a look at this is a student that's not at grade level. This student is below the national average and they scored a 199. They are in the 25th percentile. We have a lot of opportunity for growth for this child. We can take a look and go, okay, what do we need to do? We not only do we have a mathematics score, but we have a reading score. Now we've got 2 that look similar. That can tell us so many things. There may be an underlying issue, because now we have it across the board. They may have been having a really bad day. We got to take a look at that. Did something happen that morning? Are they not feeling well? This is a good test. It's a great test. It's a fantastic test. But it's on one day for, like it's across days. So we just have to take a look. Did they have the flu? What was going on? Were they having an underlying medical condition? So we do take these seriously, but we also take it in conjunction with the bulk of other data. Does this make sense? Okay, the family report, it has a description of the math growth up top. The student achievement is compared to the national average. On your next test, it will plot where they were, it will show their growth, and then it is able to predict what their growth will be in April, if they were on the correct trajectory, like what they've been doing, and then it will tell you what you need to do to bridge that gap. What I love is this says parent, next steps for support. And it can actually break it down, it can tell you, and yes ma'am.
So we won't get this, I'm not seeing that, we won't get that until we take the test again?
Pieces of the data are not going to be there because this was the first test they've taken.
Okay.
So all that growth piece of it
Yeah.
won't be there until January.
Okay.
Does that
Then I
answer?
should see a family report, is that correct?
The elementary was sent home the family report. The middle school was sent a different report, one that's just a little bit more in-depth than the family
The middle
report.
school, was it? Okay, was it by email?
Yes.
Okay.
If you have that and you want to stay after and you want to show me, I can help.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So it was interesting when I saw this. I understand this is the first score, and so there is no growth to
Yes.
show. But then, how is it showing a projected score?
Because this test is really smart. It is able, again, it's been given to 10 million kids. And it can take a look at how your child answered the test questions, where they
On
were,
individuals.
and then take that algorithm and predict. And I'm going to tell you, as long as I've been working,
Pretty
it's
accurate.
pretty accurate. A student I had 2 years ago, we'll just call him Bob, sorry if anybody's heard Bob. Bob was in my class and I had him for 7th grade math, and then he took the test and his prediction was here. And he came in and was here. And so I said, Bob, I know who you were sitting next to. She's awful cute. Were you completely more focused on her than the test? And he looks at me and goes, Mrs. Calderon, she smelled really good that day. I said, how about we take that test again in a room, not with her? He hit the projection dead on. So as we get into it and I see something, I can start to notice anomalies. And if you really don't think that conversation happened, I could call him. You go, hey, do you want to fess up to what you did? But bless his heart, he's a teenage boy sitting next to a pretty girl. That happens. The math growth, this is the question that answers the how does it know what is going on, the test. It is computer adaptive. This is my favorite thing about it. It starts off with a question. And see the green box? It says, yay, you got that one right, woohoo. I'm going to give you a harder question. And then you get that one right. And it goes, woohoo, I'm going to give you a harder question. And it gave you a harder question, and you didn't do so well. So it drops it back, and you still don't do so well. And it drops it back, and you get it right. Then it goes back up, then it comes back down, and then you get it right, and it goes back up, until you start getting that trend of getting questions correct. Then it can more, like you notice the variation is large in the beginning, and then it starts to even out. So your child will not take the same test twice, because they're going to get questions correct and incorrect because of growth. In addition, it is a great test because we are all in a room, and we are all sitting next to one another. We are probably not all at the same skill level. So that first question is going to look similar, and from there, it becomes an individualized test. So for some of us, that we all got that same test and we bubbled, and some of us might have made a Christmas tree. That's a true story. Don't ever do that. Because I did not want to take the test, so I just bubbled what looked like a Christmas tree. Can't do that here. Let's say your child is absolutely, totally not into taking the test that day, and they're going 5, 6, 7, 8, B, C, B. The test goes, whoa, they're guessing. Let's try that again. It stops their test. It makes the proctor come over and go, are you guessing? And they're like, how'd you know? Then we get to stop the test, restart it, we have to give them a pin, and then they know that we know that they know that we know, and then it just increases that validity. There's so many wonderful things about this. Does that help with the question on, is it going to be the exact same test?
So they're getting tested on the skills.
Pardon?
They're getting tested on the skills.
Yes, ma'am.
Not on a standard necessarily.
It is.
Like what I'm saying is, they might get something that they haven't seen.
Oh, they'll
in
definitely
their
get questions they haven't
year.
seen. Oh, you mean topics?
Yes, is it, this is the first time that we do this, so I didn't know anything about it, so is it testing what the teacher is teaching? Okay. That was
It's a
my question.
standardized, the question pool is globalized. So it's gonna test statistical data, it's gonna test geometry. Here's the beauty of it. Like, let's say it's April and we're testing, and we get my test back and we go, ooh, she didn't do very well in geometry. Well, dang, none of the kids did. What I can tell Ms. Stute is, I haven't taught geometry yet. So I understand why this isn't. But it helps because then we can answer that question to the parent. We haven't taught that unit yet. And that's a really valid question. When you are in this environment, you want some answers on the whys. Does that?
Yeah, well, Yeah, because as they're seeing it throughout the year, then they'll get better on the test whenever they do it, because you.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, that skill has been reinforced
Yes, ma'am.
in their year. Okay.
And it also helps you as a parent, because you can look at that skill set and go, where do I need to help them? Or maybe I don't have those skill sets, so who can I hire to do that? I love it because it challenges the top performers without overwhelming them. And it also scoops up that kid that's at below grade level. At my last school, I worked in the special ed department, and I had several students that we accepted. We knew what their challenges were, and they tested in the first percentile. We knew, that was not a surprise to us, but then it gave us a roadmap. Are we gonna remediate them in 1 year? Absolutely not. It's not gonna happen. But with parent support, partnering, if you've got somebody that's below grade level, or below that 50th, it gives us a roadmap, it's a diagnostic, it helps us. We can then sit down with you and say, this is what the MRI showed, these are the medicines we need to do, this is our treatment plan. Now sometimes teachers can't do it all alone, and we have to say, we have to come at this as a team support. Does that make sense? Other questions? This is just a visual. The MAP growth uses that RIT scale to accurately measure what the students know. It's regardless of their grade level. So if you've got a little smarty McGlarty and they are advanced, and years ago, if they were in 5th grade and you gave them the 5th grade standardized paper test, we would know how they were able to do on a 5th grade test. If your child is sitting in my room and they are a 5th grader, but they are super advanced, this test will advance to their level. So we get a better picture of that advanced student also. Sometimes those old-fashioned tests only really showed us who wasn't doing well. Does that make sense? And if you like data, you will like this when you get more data points, because then you can start to track growth. You can start to see, oh, they picked up that skill. Oh, how cool. Oh, look, things working. And then once they have gotten a growth score, they will get an RIT score. You don't have an RIT score yet because we haven't been able to measure growth. This is also really valuable because you know how sometimes there was a grade level score, like when you were taking other standardized tests? This score goes across grade level. So if you score a 206 and you're in 4th grade, it means the same thing as if you scored a 206 in the 8th grade. You're just going to fall differently on where you fall. Like in 4th grade, you might be at the 98th percentile. In 8th grade, you might be at the 20th percentile. But that score is still the same. A stable scale gives us a common vocabulary. It gives us the ability to track real growth. I think sometimes some of those older tests gave you false hope or false bad news. And then goal setting is so much easier. And like I said, my class that I had the last 3 years, I would take these scores, give them to the kids, and go, it says where you're weak. Does it match? What bugs you when you're trying to study? I had one kid go, Mrs. Calderon, I have no clue how to find the main idea. And every time in history they're like, find the main idea. And he's like, I have no clue. I don't know what I'm looking for. So we worked on main idea. It was fantastic. End of the year, He was fine in the main idea. His grade went from a D+ in history to an A-. He was like, Mrs. Calderon, this works. Yeah, it does. It really does. Helping Your Child Grow. That is the website that has student resources. And then my very, very, very favorite thing, we did not put the website up here, but if you're familiar with Khan Academy, you can type in your child's score and it will give you the matching support and lessons. I know, thank you for that. I appreciate that because it makes me go, this is fantastic. And it does it across grade levels. So for those parents who need support and maybe math is not your thing, maybe grammar's not your thing, it will give you those supports. If math is your thing and you're like, oh, I really want to push this, I know this, you just heard me talk about reading. I teach ELA here, but I've taught math for 20 years. I'm a math nerd. Both of my kids took calculus CD in high school because their mom was like, you can and you will. But this helped us get there because I knew where to go on Khan Academy to get it, but you didn't have to have my knowledge now. Now you can take that score, type it in. Frankie has that link that he has at the ready. I don't have that link at the ready. So if you want it, you can either email, you want it to email you?
Yeah, you certainly can, yeah.
So email Ms. Stute or Bryce. You can also, can I let him email me? I'm happy to help.
Absolutely.
My email is ycalderon, CALDERON, at Concord Christian or Concord CS. If you go look on 5th grade, I'm the only one that looks like me. The other ones are a smidge younger. And you can email me and then I can help. What questions do you have? Yes, sir.
We're talking a lot about the global experience here, which is great, but certainly math has the ability to narrow that down to say, in the United States or in Tennessee, this is what they're comparing to.
A slide did not come through. But or I didn't put it in. The beauty of this test is it is so smart. I can click on Tennessee standards. I can click on ACT. I can click on SAT. I can click on PSAT. So if you as a parent say, I want to know if they're globally ready and if they're on track for these 3 national standards and this 1 Tennessee standard, I can click on it and show you. If you say, I want to know is my kiddo hitting the Tennessee standards, I can click on it and show you. So it can narrow it or it can globalize it, whichever is the data that you want to get.
Will it still give the percentile, say in the? That's good.
And then it is so fantastic. On the back side, what you guys don't see is it can power rank my students from the 99th percentile down to the 1st percentile. And yes, I did have that in one class 2 years ago. But it'll tell me what Zani, my 99th percentile girl, what she's ready to work on. And then what Bob, my 1st percenter, but how I can put that in one lesson. And how I can then differentiate that lesson for that 99th percentile kiddo and that one for my 1st percentile kiddo. So, and then it can tell me, on things on how to hit that target. Does that help?
Yeah, that's really good. Were there any anomalies noticed on, I don't know what type of testing you were using before, but were there any anomalies like on this previous test we traditionally scored low and whatever, but in this one we scored high or vice versa? Were there any type of comparison points that you saw that stood out?
I saw some differentiated data between STARS testing and MAP testing. But STARS testing is a little bit more static it's not differentiated. So the data, although good and useful, this is better.
Yeah.
Kenneth Starr's data to me is a very qualified physician looking at me, doing some differential diagnostics in the office versus a very high-end MRI. Does that help with?
Yeah, yeah, but there wasn't like, this one particular field was a lot lower and this one was real higher.
When we did our Stanford 10, I sent out an email about our math scores. I was very nervous that we were not hitting what we were supposed to. This MAPS testing actually made us feel much better, that we are much more on track than we thought that we were. But also I think that with the STAR testing, we're seeing that even the Lexiles that STAR was giving us do not match what the Lexiles that this testing is giving us. So I've already spent a couple hours sitting down with our different testing, kind of comparing and seeing what does one give us that the other doesn't, and are they compatible, or how do they compare? So we're still kind of in the middle of figuring that out.
And she has nerdy me going, isn't this exciting?
So with the data that you have of the cohort or the class here itself, is the expectation that the teachers are going to use these scores to actually remediate or do remediation for certain students, or adjust a class based on the scores that they're seeing?
I will tell you that 5th grade has looked at it and said, what skills do we need to grow? What skills do we need to take? I work across the hall from 6th graders, the 6th grade team, and they've talked about looking at it globally on what skills that they need. Like, was there a skill that was missing? Like globally, like even though you could have a 99th percentile kid, was it still a global skill? So for me, I'm looking at those first, but I also have had meetings with parents saying, I'm sorry, your child is below, we've done the MRI, here's the diagnostic, here's some remediation, and we can partner together. So I do think that as we all become more familiar, and we are doing some training in-house on how to, that we will get better as our teachers get globally better at using the data. Just because this is their first time. I mean, I did the training 2 weeks ago, and I had teachers in here going, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh wow. So we kind of have to be a little bit patient.
Yeah, I was going to say, our goal is to use the results to drive our instruction. There's so much of it that we're having Yvonne teach us in small chunks so that it's doable and that we can understand and master each thing. I'm excited about the excitement that the teachers see, and the Lord brought us Yvonne, who not only loves maps, but really is an expert at it. And so we are going to utilize her as much as possible, because her excitement it's catching. And so our teachers, when we sit here with our computers and she trains us, we're almost distracted by their own kids' test scores because they're already wanting to talk and kind of dig down into it. So it's exciting.
I am very thankful that the leadership did this, because I will tell you, some schools will shy away because they're afraid of it diagnosing what they haven't been doing. But how else do you get better? If we take a look at the data and we go, oh, we have a tumor, we need to remove it, we need to apply medicine, then we can get better globally. And as we trickle it down, then we can start building those ladders. And if you can remediate in 3rd grade, or 2nd grade, or 1st grade, those rungs are way closer together. But if I get you in 5th grade, or I'm teaching you in junior high, and I look at you and I go, tell me about 3rd grade math. And they're like, it was a hot mess. That rung now is very steep. So I just am very thankful that the leadership said, let's do this. Other questions? Oh, go
One
ahead.
last question. The report also showed some Lexile scores and percentile scores. How do we interpret them?
I can send you a Lexile score,
Okay.
or I can show you how to Google the Lexile score. So there's a true Lexile score, and then there's a couple ways that it adapts, but it can get you, depending on what data you want, I can tell you which one.
It's weighted to.
Yeah, so.
So that 50th is what grade level? So if I'm reading it, anything below 50th, that means that the student is not on grade level. Is that how you read it?
That is how my last school interpreted it.
Okay.
I do believe that that Concord says 50th is where the bulk of your kids are gonna hang, a little bit above that and a little bit below that. In that, you know,
So anything below you consider that student needs remediation?
if you take a look, it goes red, orange, yellow, blue, green, blue.
Right.
If you are in the orange, we need remediation. Yellow, the band with the yellow is
You're on par.
above 50th percentile and below 50th percentile, and that's that bandwidth of, you know.
That wiggle room.
Yeah. But when we get down into orange, we need to remediate. When we get down into red, we need to have lots of chats.
So around that yellow, you're pretty much on par.
Other questions? Let me pray us out, and then if you have additional questions, you can stay and I'll be happy to answer. Dear Heavenly Father, we just praise you.